afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's session of Lunch and Learn with OTrain. We have a great session set up today, but first of all, my name's Emma Monroe and this is Shane Ridley. We'd like to welcome Jodie Hebrard from Zenergy Group to our panel today. Hello, Jodie, how are you?
Hey, I'm really great. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Now, just to kick the ball rolling, we do have the Q&A app working, and there is a Q&A box just below the video where if you have any questions at all for Jodie throughout the session, we will interrupt when it's appropriate and ask Jodie the questions that you want to hear the answers from. Now, we're going to kick off first with an update on OTrain over the last 2 weeks. So what's been happening, Shane?
Fantastic. We're getting really busy here, Emma, and everyone at home. We're actually moving at the end of the month, so we're measuring up furniture and organising removalists, and got a new office down in Margaret Street, which we're very excited. Had a very exciting business history. We started across the road from where we are now, moved around the corner, moved back to here, and now we're moving back around the corner. So it's very exciting. We're looking forward to getting to our new address and the new digs.
We may have to do something flashy for our last broadcast from here.
Our last broadcast from the office.
Yes. So there you go.
Maybe we can do our painting. Maybe they can all come in for a live lunch and learn to help paint or something.
That would be interesting. Very good. Now, thanks for that update. Now we're going to get stuck into this juicy content that we've got today from Jodie. Shane, you're going to do the intro to Jodie, and we'll kick off.
Fantastic. And Jodie, thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate you making the time. And today we're talking about one of my favourite subjects of all time, and that's culture. Jodie's going to share her story with us in a minute, but runs a fitness business in Brisbane and has an absolute devotion to culture. And, you know, I've got 1,000 quotes on culture. I love culture. I talk about it all the time. Culture beats strategy. It eats strategy for breakfast. Culture is your key differentiator. And there's just so many examples of where having a great culture in a business and really understanding and driving your culture has led to market leaders. And that's exactly what we've got with Zenergy. So I'm really excited, to get started. So, Jodie, do you want to start by telling everybody, I guess your background and your story and how you sort of got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. I'm a qualified accountant by trade. That was my very first career, and I absolutely hated it, and I was bad at it, and I moved on from there. My husband was studying human movements at university and was doing a whole new fitness career. It was called personal training back then, and it blew my mind away with what you could do with a fitness career. So I decided to jump ship into the fitness side, and we worked as solo contract personal trainers at Zest Health Clubs for a good few years, and we were doing really well. We had it down pat. So the next step for us was our own business. We opened the doors in February 2004, so it's 10 years ago just gone by, and we realised very quickly that we had no idea what we were doing. Had to work our butts off basically to turn it around from all the mistakes that we were making. Fast forward to 10 years now, I stopped training clients back in 2007, and I just managed the business side, so the marketing, the financial management, and work with my manager as well. I've had a couple of kids along the way as well. That's my story.
Fantastic. That's awesome. And so we were talking before the broadcast, and you mentioned that you're in that stage, you've got the business going, you're kind of trying to work out where to go.
Yeah.
You get a business coach involved, and the business coach starts to talk to you about culture. So
yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So when we first opened, it took us about 4 months to realise we were about to go bankrupt, and we needed to take some massive action. We moved back home to mum and dad. Thank God for all parents that take back their children when they open their businesses. And we employed a business coach. I always believe in having mentors surrounding you so you can learn from and accelerate your results. And our business coach, started talking about our team rather than using the word staff, and they started talking about what's your culture, and I had no concept of what that was. So we learned a little bit about it, and it's such an intangible thing. You can't touch it, but you can see, like in a sporting team, when there's a good culture. So Tony and I, having a sports background, could sort of look out in the sporting arena and go, okay, cool, we've got the idea, so we've got to sort of get that within the business to make it humming better. Because initially when we first opened the doors, we were having turnover of staff every 3 months. And that gets embarrassing when you're running a personal training facility to say, yeah, sorry, your trainer's left, we've got to re-employ. So we decided that it was a very important thing to learn and get our heads around.
Okay, great. So how did you come up with your culture? Well, what is your culture? How do you describe your culture, and how do you manage it?
Sure. We came up with our culture, our 6 points of culture, and the way that we came up with that was lots of, I guess, in-depth conversations with some awesome red wine, probably, no doubt, on Friday nights at home with my husband. And it's an extension, our culture is an extension of us and how we do business and our ethos and values, basically. I remember 2 distinct books that really helped me get the how-to, and they were Brad Sugar's book on team and also the Rockefeller Habits. They had a profound impact in terms of the knowledge base that I had around culture. So write those 2 down, Brad Sugar's Team Building and the Rockefeller Habits. I can't remember the author.
The author's Vern Harnish. He's my favourite author. It's my favourite book. So regular viewers would know I talk about Vern and the Rockefeller Habits often. Great.
Correct.
Thanks for the plug.
No, that's all right. So back to our 6 points of culture, we just sort of developed that. And the 6 points that we've got are win-win, which is everything that we do within the business, it's got to be a win-win. A win for the team, a win for our clients, and a win for the business owners. It needs to support everything. If you don't have a win-win, you've got a win-lose, which means someone loses out. It's not going to work. The relationship's not going to work from a long-term point of view. We've also got above and below the line. So there's a line in the sand. Stay above it. Don't blame and make excuses. I remember having a trainer once rocking up late for their training session with the client because of the traffic. I'm like, what, mate? It's just step up. There's the line. Get above it. And the next one is a no-fat trainer. That's a policy or a rule that we have, and it's not based on how many kilos or skin folds. It's the personality behind the trainer, because if there's a personal trainer that's not enthusiastic to exercise themselves, it's pretty hard to be credible within the fitness industry. It's like you wouldn't go see a broke financial planner. So we're very upfront in that, we don't employ fat personal trainers. We want the healthy and the motivated personal trainer on our team. Change, expect it, embrace it. It's a part of life. So we've got that as a part of our culture as well. Candor. I don't like to pretty things when I talk. I'm pretty a straight shooter. So I'll call a spade, and I expect my team to do the same. So we've got a very direct dialogue that happens within our culture. And the last one is give 100%, get 100%. You can't expect to rock up to your work and put in a half-assed job and get paid promotions and pay rises. So we're very blunt and open and honest with this. This is our points of culture. If you want to come work with our team, this is what you got to work by, live by, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of bottles of red wine, or many bottles of red wine, it's an extension of your own values and where you are. You introduce these 6 points of culture. Then you go back to your team. At this stage, you're still early, but you've got some staff. So how do you introduce it to them, and what happens?
Yeah, sure. We basically, back when we did introduce it, because we had an existing team that were all floundering and there were really no rules of the game or clear expectations, we basically did like half-day breakouts, took them away, did a lunch session, and sort of shared openly and honestly the direction that we were going within the business, made it known to them that we wanted to be the absolute best in Brisbane. It wasn't going to be second best, it was the best. And then we sort of linked in, because it's a sporting business that I'm in, it was easy to sort of use the whole analogy of sports. And it's just a matter of sharing with them. Some people took it on board, some people didn't. The people that didn't, you're not welcome on the team. So we made it very clear at that point that, this is our team and this is the rules that we want to live by. So if you want to play, awesome. If you don't want to play, that's okay too.
Okay, fantastic. And did you notice in the team that you'd hired to that point that, there was a lot of people that got off the bus, or? No,
it wasn't a lot. It's always only like that 10%. In a team, there's always 70% of the average, and then you've got 20%, which are started pulling you down, and then 10%, which are your top performers. So it was only a couple that were rocky and we weren't really happy with anyway. So it's just the nature of the beast in terms of the ratios with your team. You're always going to have that ratio.
Fantastic. So business is going well. You've just got rid of 10% of your team because they're not on board the bus. How do you use your values to hire and just 6 points of culture? How do you use them to hire the next people that come in?
Yeah, sure. We do a group interview as our very first hiring step, and as soon as they come to our group interview, they're exposed to it. So we share with them 3 points of culture in that group interview. We actually play games in our group interviews as well, because games are a really good way to demonstrate values and that intangible thing that you're trying to get across. So we play a change game where we actually get them to change their physical appearance, change 5 things about your appearance in the next 60 seconds. And in that, people get uncomfortable and they think, why am I playing this game? And it just brings about a whole lot of questions, and you can see the people that are resistant to change or that are happy to change and will do it on the first step of a group interview, just, because they embrace it. So we think about, okay, how can we, because obviously you just tell someone something, but when they can feel it, that's what you really want to try and do when you're communicating your culture points. So we've got some games that we play. And then all throughout the group interview process, we're just referring back to it. It's really important that it's a consistent message. It's in our employment contract. Our 6 points of culture is written in our employment contract. It's got to be there consistently throughout it. And we also use our, inside lingo within the business in terms of, is that a win-win decision, or is that a win-win request for you to have next week off with only a couple of days' notice, or whatever it is. So using the lingo of your culture all throughout, from the very first step to all throughout your process.
Are there any resources that you refer back to for those group interviews, Jodie? Are there, did you get the ideas for the games from anywhere in particular, or is it something that you've just played with and developed over time?
No, the 2 books that I read before, The Rockefeller Habits, Brad Sugar's Team Building. I did not create anything new. I just learned what I had to learn, put it into practice and implement it. There is no new information out there. Just go learn it and implement it. When you go read Brad Sugar's book, a lot of the points that I've got are very similar to his. We've got daily huddles that we still have, which is a daily team meeting with our team, and that's from the Rockefeller Habits. So, yeah, no new resources here. Just everything that's out there. Go use it.
One of my lecturers at uni said, you're not smart enough to invent anything. So for you, R&D stands for rip off and duplicate.
Yeah. It works. So yeah, you got to implement. You got to market research and then implement.
Yeah. So fantastic. So how's the culture changed from, I guess, where you were 10 years ago and a few bottles of wine to where you are today? Has it changed? Has it evolved? Is it still the same vision?
No, it has definitely evolved. What I've noticed is that the standards have risen within the team. So before, what was something that we'd have to really strongly say over and over, etc., is now just a given. So that we've lifted the standards of what's acceptable as the bare ass minimum, and people are performing at a higher standard, if that makes sense. So the average normal stuff that should get done, you're not always having to follow up about it, and that's a reflection of how Tony and I, the leaders, have addressed things when they do go wrong. We're better bosses and leaders with the culture as well. It's forced us to step up. So definitely the standards have risen over the years, and it now works a lot. It's nicer, it's smoother, and we've had massive high retention with our team as well.
Okay, and you mentioned earlier you've changed the way you engage staff as well, which is a bit out of the box for your sector. Was that a scary thing to do?
No, not really. I remember back in, when was it? I think it was February 2005. Which is actually when the very first fitness award was announced. And because I'd come from an accounting background, I had some corporate experience and knew that there were things like awards and you should have contracts and stuff like that. And I heard of this award, and I just said to Tony, well, we now need to employ people. That's the legislation. And yeah, we did. Obviously, for us to employ someone full-time, we're taking a loss for however many weeks or a couple of months. And we've built up the clientele to be able to deliver that business model. But it's no different to any other service-based business out there, whether it's an accountant or a financial planner. We're selling time. So I just had my business hat on from an accountant. I was selling 6 units of time back when I was an accountant. Now we were selling 30-minute, 45-minute, or 1 hour units of time. So it's easy for me to transition into that.
Okay, fantastic. So, the culture's been successful for you. It's shaped your business. It's made you the success it is today.
Yeah.
Are there three major lessons or a couple of points or something that you've learned or you've picked up along the journey that you'd like to share? Is there three things that we can take away today and implement straight away that starts to make a difference to our business?
Definitely. I've made some cheat notes here for this one. You can't teach someone how to have a good attitude, but you can teach skill. That is so important. I remember when we first started hiring people, if they were nice, I thought they were good, and you'd hire them because they were such a nice person. But then you can't hire a niceness. It's a matter of, do they have the right attitude for the culture, for the team? And if they don't, it doesn't matter how long their resume is. It doesn't matter what experience they bring or who they've worked for. The attitude needs to fit. And the really simple things I look out for is, are they arriving 5 to 10 minutes early for the group interview? Is their behaviour consistent from the very first experience I had with them to the second, third interview process, or does it start to change in any way? Obviously, references is a massive part of it as well. But you can't teach someone our culture points. That just needs to come from within. Don't sacrifice on that. You'll just end up having a dud team member. The second golden nugget I think would be to remember that people learn by doing. So you can talk and talk and talk and have your stuff written down and say, read this and this is what the test is, or this is the mission statement, or whatever it is. But people learn by doing. So having that kinesthetic games has really made a massive impact with our team. You can feel a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning, and you're definitely putting yourself out there, but you just need to back yourself and realise that if you do it really well, it's going to have a massive impact on your team. You're going to gain more respect within your serious team players, which is just going to bring more fruits to the business, basically. And one of the best things I love with my learnings is you get the team you deserve. So we had sucky team back when we started because it was a reflection of my leadership. I was sucky boss. I didn't have the balls to talk to someone when they were doing something that wasn't the right thing. I'd avoid them like anything. And when I did talk to them, I just ramroded them without using good communication skills. We got the team that we deserved. So if you do have a sucky team on your team, then congratulations. If you have a great team on your team, congratulations as well. It's a reflection of the leadership within a business, so you really need to take that on board and go, my team are not going to perform any higher than what I'm performing, so you've got to step it up yourself.
And that even applies, Jodie, when, because it's a well-known fact that you hire people that are strong in areas that you're not necessarily strong with, but there's still that leadership model which applies in that case, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely hire in our weaknesses, and I'd suck at, if I had to do what my team did now, I'd suck at it, and if they had to do what I did, they'd suck at my job. So it's really looking at, what is the role, what qualities are needed, and just making sure there's a fit there. So yeah, I agree.
We had Rob Curry on last Lunch and Learn talking about disc profiling and selecting people for different roles. Do you use any sort of testing or psych profiling?
Absolutely. Yeah, first interview process, we give them our little disc sheet. We like to hire an SI personality. They're loyal, they want to be part of a team, they want a strong leader, they like security in terms of employment, full-time employment. So absolutely, we identified that. And again, that was from, realising where we were lacking in the business and why our high Ds were leaving us every couple of months, because the Ds wanted to do their own thing. Sorry if you guys don't know what DISC is, but Google it, you'll find it. Yeah, we definitely, from the very first, look for hiring that certain type of personality.
Fantastic. And anyone who doesn't know what DISC is, check the recording from last week. Rob did a great job explaining that process. Jodie, I'm really interested. I'm a culture guy. I love culture, and I love what you're saying about your group interview, about your gameplay and those sorts of things. I'm interested. I read a lot of books, and I've read both the books you mentioned, and it's a very American sort of process to the multiple interviews, the culture, the gameplay.
Yeah.
It's not something that's really that popular in Australia. It's not something that most organisations are doing. It's the few rare ones like yourself. I guess two questions. How did you handle the transition personally? 10 years on, it seems natural to stand in a room full of people at a group interview and play a game.
Yeah.
I imagine the first and second time when you had all these Aussie faces looking up at you thinking, how crazy is this woman? How did you get through that?
I think having a bulletproof sense of who I was and what I wanted to achieve, and your opinion doesn't really matter. I think, having a strong sense of self is definitely important in any strong leader. So if you're worried about what a potential maybe employee thinks of you, then you're not going to have the strong qualities that's needed to lead that team. So it needs to resonate with you. Not everyone has the enthusiastic personality that I've got. I get that, and I think whatever you implement into your team, it needs to be a reflection of who you are. This is a reflection of me, which is the enthusiastic Jodie. So I think it's just a matter of finding within yourself what are your values, and trying to incorporate that from yourself.
And what about the people in the room? When they're looking up at this crazy self-assured leader and thinking this is just the weirdest interview I've ever been to.
Yeah.
Some engage, some withdraw.
Yeah.
Do you sort of, in your selection mechanism, do you sort of go engage, tick, withdrawn, gone, or do you give some people some time to warm into it and to kind of get to understand what you're doing?
No, definitely, because we're looking for an SI person, we ignore the people that aren't coming out of their shell. It's some level of participation that we're looking for. And at some stage, they need to feel comfortable with it to be working on our team. But initially, absolutely, if someone's reserved and not playing full out, I wouldn't expect a high S personality to come in and go, yeah, sure. What are you crazy person doing? For someone like me, I'd be like, woohoo, this is awesome, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I think, you need to match it to your audience, but you also need to be really strong and firm with not negotiating on, what it is and who you are and what you stand for. So that's that balance. And I think the sooner you start, the sooner you're going to find out, and you'll figure it out within yourself as well. Like, I've got absolute clarity on it now, but it's taken years to get that clarity. You're not going to get it overnight.
So you've 10 years ago, 9 years ago, too many bottles of red wine, you came up with 6 culture points, you've driven this, you've been successful. I love the fact that you found your culture in wine. I'm heading off now to look for mine. Tell us about how it's impacted your business and particularly your clients and the relationship that your clients have with Zenergy as a result of this focus on culture.
Yeah, I've openly communicated with our clients about our culture. So when we sort of developed it, we started implementing it, and then we've gotten clear on it. Once we got through to the clarity end of the process, I felt very comfortable sharing it. This is what we stand for as a team and as a business, and this is what we hire our trainers on. So we communicated with that, communicated to them about that, and we got a really positive response because then they felt like they were part of it as well, and they would embrace it. So the word that comes to mind is community. Again, if you think about a sporting team, the stronger the culture is, the more there's just the community feel around about it. And I've got such good relationships with our clients that I definitely get, I guess, first-hand feedback in regards to, it's not Bob was late, but it was, oh, Bob just seems a bit off. And that sort of relates to our culture points of give 100%, get 100%. So they're happy to, you know, come back with their communication and letting you know when things don't feel right, and that culture is the feeling part of it, not the blatant mistakes that can just happen, which is just part of business.
And I can actually attest to that because I was a client of Jodie's for 5 years. And it would definitely had a tribe feel of it, very, very accessible feel to it, and it just felt like it was, you were looked after, basically. There was very little uncertainty, but a lot of certainty. And when you're doing something that, you know, is a little out of your comfort zone anyway, having that certainty to know that you're supported as a client was super, super important and very impressive. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, yes. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that, Jodie. We've gone through all of our questions from the audience and from ourselves. Was there anything else that you wanted to add, Shane?
No, look, I think Jodie's just confirmed that, you know, culture eats strategy. Culture is hugely important. But, and I guess maybe there is something, you know, it's the commitment to culture. You know, we all have a culture in our organisation, whether we want one or not, and whether it's the one we want or not. Yeah. But it's a commitment to actually documenting it, and you know, I wrote a blog. You can find it on our blog, otrain.com.au/blog, on culture, because, you know, it's great that Jodie's got her 6 points of culture. You know, most organisations I've dealt with over the years talk about their culture or talk about having a culture, but they can't define it. There's no culture map. There's no 6 points. There's nothing to say this is the culture. You know. And they say to me in our meetings, oh, you know, we've got a great culture here. And I say, well, explain it. Well, it's great. Well, give me more. So, you know, having that commitment and documenting it like Jodie's done makes all the difference. And it does give you that point of reference to move forward from. So, Jodie, really appreciate you making the time and sharing your experience and the experiences of energy, you know, with us this afternoon.
No, pleasure. Glad to help.
Excellent. So, Jodie, if our clients do want to find you, if they're in Brisbane, to learn more about you and experience that culture for themselves, where can they go?
They should pop on over to zenergy.biz. That's energy with a Z in front, .biz. There's a direct, I think there's my direct mobile number, but the landline comes through to my mobile anyway, so just give me a buzz.
Excellent, excellent. And it's good, the timing and not pre-planned at all, that you mentioned the Rockefeller habits, because that's actually what we're discussing in our next Lunch and Learn.
Fantastic. Always excited to be talking Burn Harnish and the Rockefeller habits. As Jodie, you know, the daily huddle, the rhythm, you know, the one-page plan. Do you use the one-page plan?
Yes, yeah. Very simple, powerful tool.
Yeah. So really excited next week to be next Lunch and Learn to be talking Rockefeller habits.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thanks once again, Jodie, for being such a brilliant contributor with your content. That was very much appreciated. And for Shane for hosting for OTrain.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Thanks for dropping by. And don't forget, in a fortnight, last Lunch and Learn from this location. Emma will be wearing painting smocks, helping shift furniture out of the background. Really exciting.
Excellent. We'll see you in a fortnight. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.